Hey everyone, it's me, Jonathan, again, and today I'm going to talk to you about when things are going bad in your life, whether it's a punishment, a lesson, a test, or an attack. Uh, Punishment, lesson, or test by God, or an attack by Satan and the angels of hell and the demons. Start off, I want to say that I hear it a lot in churches, or from other Christians, when something bad is going in another, is happening in someone else's life, some other Christian's life, their first response is, well, what are you doing that's causing God to punish you? What sin are you not repenting for? What sinful way are you continuing to walk in, even though you know you shouldn't be? And that's not the way to go about it. Because first of all, who the heck told you that they were doing anything wrong? And I want to scream at them. I'm like, who's coming to you and saying that they're sinning at all? And who's saying that they're sinning and not repenting? Who's saying that they're not living the life the way Christ wants them to live it? Who made you? Who gave you the right to judge them on that? Judge them that way. You don't know what they're doing. That's between them and God. Don't come out and say that they're being punished. And when I've actually made this argument to believers before, they go, well, God wouldn't be punishing them if they weren't doing something wrong. Who said he was being punished? The person's being punished. And they, well, this bad thing's happened. They're obviously being punished. No, they're not. Have you not read the Have you not read the Bible? There's an entire book. It's called the Book of Job. The entire book is dedicated to that one subject of bad things are going to happen, whether you're a sinful person and being punished, or whether you lived a righteous life. Job was a very righteous man. He lived the way God wanted to. He repented for his sins. He repented for his family's sins. He lived the life he was supposed to live. He did everything he was supposed to do. And all the bad and he had everything: his house, his wife, his kids, his family, his money, everything was taken away from him. He was destitute, living in sackcloth and ashes. He was reduced to nothing. And God even said Job didn't deserve it. There was no punishment for it. He wasn't being punished. He wasn't being tested. It wasn't a lesson. If you read the book of Job, it was essentially a bet between Satan and God. Satan said, hey, that guy Job, I bet I can make him curse your name. I bet I can make him turn away from you and curse your name and forget that you ever existed. Just plain out say that you don't exist, and that you don't love the Hebrews, because they weren't Christians at the time. It's an Old Testament book. And God said, you're wrong, but okay, you do what you want. You put him through a living hell, and I can promise you that my faithful servant Job will not turn from me. So Satan did. Satan punished him. He punished him hard. Or not punished him, attacked him. Satan attacked him, and he attacked him hard. And Job never turned from him. Job stuck to his faith. Job had friends that said, well, Job, you must be doing something wrong. God wouldn't punish you this way if you weren't doing something wrong. And Job's like, I'm not doing anything wrong. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm living the life I'm supposed to live. I'm doing what God wants me to do. I'm doing what God, I repent for my sins. I live a righteous life. I tithe. I do everything I'm supposed to do. I don't know why God's allowing this to happen, but it's not because I'm being sinful. And his friends continued to give that typical, now Christian, but answer of, well, you must be doing something wrong because otherwise God wouldn't punish you. And Job's like, this can't be a punishment. I'm not doing anything wrong. And to start off with a verse, I'm going to go to Job 42, verses 7 through 9, as soon as I get to 42 here. Seven through 9. And this is a big reason why you don't need to be, as a Christian, you don't need to look at other Christians or even non-believers and go, well, what are you doing wrong to make God punish you? Because right here, it's God's displeased with Job's friends. It came about after the Lord had spoken these words to Job, that the Lord said to, and I'm gonna slaughter these names, so bear with me. Said to Eliphaz the Temanite, my wrath is kindled against you and against your two friends, because you have not spoken of me what is right, as my servant Job has. Now therefore, take yourselves 7 bulls and 7 rams, and go to my servant Job, and offer up a burnt offering for yourselves, and my servant Job will pray for you. For I will accept him, so that I may not do with you according to your folly, because you have not spoken of me what is right, as my servant Job has. So Eliphaz the Temanite and Bildad the, I can't pronounce that one, and Zophar, not going to pronounce that origin either, went and did as the Lord told them, and the Lord accepted Job. God said, look, you told him this whole time that I was punishing him when I wasn't. You told him falsely. You told him he was being punished. You falsely accused him. And he never turned from me. He kept telling you that he wasn't being punished, that he was living right. And instead of helping him get through these hard times, you kept accusing him of doing wrong and saying that he was being punished. So now, you take these burnt offerings, because back then they did burnt offerings, you take these burnt offerings to Job, and you offer them to Job. In other words, God's saying, no, I don't want your burnt offering. I'm not accepting your burnt offering for your sin. Job has to accept it, and then Job will pray to me, and when he does, I won't deal with you the way you should be dealt. I won't punish you the way you deserve to be punished. So they took those burnt offerings to Job and offered them up, and Job prayed, and Job's prayer was heard, and it was accepted. The other verses I want to look at are 10 through 17. God restores Job's fortune. So this is for any of you believers who are going through a hard time. You're like, you're like Job. I'm living the right way. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do as a Christian. These bad things are happening. This is something more inspirational to keep you focused on the end game. This is where God restores Job's fortunes. For the Lord restored the fortunes of Job when he prayed for his friends. See, he prayed for his friends. And the Lord increased all that Job had twofold. So all that Job had, Job was a fairly affluent person to begin with. He had a nice home, nice family. He never wanted for anything. It was all taken away, and God gave it back twofold. He gave him back twice as much as he had twofold. Then all his brothers and all his sisters and all who had known him before came to him, and they ate bread with him in his house, and they consoled him and comforted him for all the adversities that the Lord had brought on him. And each one gave him one piece of money, and each a ring of gold. The Lord blessed the latter days of Job more than his beginning. And he had 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 yoke of oxen, and 1,000 female donkeys. And he had 7 sons and 3 daughters. And he named them. I'm not going to read the names, because again, I will slaughter them. In all the land, no women were found so fair as Job's daughters. and their father gave them inheritance among their brothers. After this, Job lived 140 years and saw his sons and his grandsons 4 generations. And Job died an old man and full of days. So not only did God replenish what was taken from him, God gave it back twice as much. God gave him back more because he remained faithful. So if you're going through a hard time, just remember, look, God has his reason for it. And if it's not as a punishment, and it's not as a lesson, and he's not testing you, then it's an attack by Satan. You may not know why God's allowing you to be attacked by Satan, but God knows. And no matter what, keep in mind that whatever Satan takes away, God's going to give it back. And then some. God doesn't want you to go through that, but he knows Satan's going to attack. And so he does what he needs to do. It's like, all right, you took all that away from my good and faithful servant. He remained faithful. He remained a good servant. Here, I'm going to give it all back to him. And then I'm going to give him back more. So Satan, all that you took away from my servant, all you did was make him stronger. Make them stronger. All you did was make them more faithful. All you did was increase the strength in their faith. You made them even more powerful for me. So, thanks. Now I'm going to give them back more than you took. And there's nothing you can do about it. The other thing to keep in mind is just because bad things are happening doesn't mean God's punishing you. King David, a man was considered a man after God's own heart. He broke every one of the commandments. He was very sinful, and God made him king. Good or bad, God has a plan for your life, and when things happen like that, when bad things happen, he has a reason for them. To move on, that was an attack. What would be like, or that was to show that Satan does attack. The other, a lesson. The author of Revelations, John, not John the Baptist, but John, when he wrote it, when he had his visions and wrote Revelations, he was in the Roman Empire version of Alcatraz. It was Patmos, I believe is how it's pronounced. He was in prison, essentially. Now, could God have given him those visions when he wasn't in Alcatraz? Or in that prison? Well, yeah, sure. He could give him those visions anywhere. He chose to give them there for a reason, though. He had lessons for John to learn in Patmos, so that he could spread that word, so he could spread that message, so that he could do what God needed him to do to grow Christianity, to bring more non-believers to God, to have that vision and to write Revelations so that we could have that message for today, or for today's world, I should say. And you're like, well, if bad things happen, why would God use them as a test? You got to remember, Jesus is the Son of God, and even Jesus was tested. In Matthew, read Matthew 4, verse 1. It's too far. I really should mark these pages. Matthew 4:1. Then Jesus was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. What? Jesus was led up by the Spirit. Yes, and it's the same Spirit of, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Big S, so it is the name. Then Jesus was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. The Son of God. The Son of God was tempted. The Son of God was tested. And the verses after that go on to explain the test and explain what all went on. But even Jesus was tested. You and I aren't Jesus. Do you think that we're too good to be tested? Do you think God won't test us? Test us? Sorry, can't speak today apparently. Of course he will. So we need to expect that something bad happens. We need to look at each other and go, well, maybe you're being tested, or maybe it's a lesson, or maybe Satan's attacking you. We need to say these different things to each other. But don't just say it's a punishment. And going back to attacks that Satan makes, Satan and the other angels of hell and whatnot will make direct attacks to try to get us to curse God's name. That was the whole book of Job. Satan will make direct attacks to make us doubt God's love, God's mercy, God's kindness. And see, that's the reason I hear from a lot of non-believers of why they don't believe in God. Well, if God was truly all loving and all merciful and all kind, these bad things wouldn't be happening because he would love us too much to allow them to happen. Well, there's a battle going on. There's a war going on between heaven and hell. And we're caught in the middle. Unfortunately to say, we are. There's a lot of bad things happening. Ask any military personnel that has ever been to war. There's a lot of bad things that happen in war. This is a spiritual war between heaven and hell, and we're caught right in the middle. Satan's gonna make attacks, and there are on us. There's gonna be casualties. We're gonna get hurt. But God's there to pick us up and dust us off, and make us whole again, put us back together. We just have to remain faithful. We have to remain constant in our faith with him. We have to seek his knowledge. We have to pray and ask God for the reasons that things are happening. He may not give us the reasons, but but when we pray, he'll give us the solutions. Satan's going to make direct attacks to try to stop God's plan for our lives, because he's afraid of those plans coming to fruition, because he knows when they do, it continually deals a decisive loss to him and his legions of hell. The thing is he doesn't realize that those decisive losses are not that to him and his legions of hell aren't that big, because the decisive loss has already been handed to him. When Jesus died on that cross, the actual war was over. The legions of hell just don't realize it's over yet. The book of Revelations talks about the 7 seals, and the only way to open those, the only being in all of heaven that can open those 7 seals is this lamb. It looks like it's been slaughtered. That was Jesus. He was the lamb that was slaughtered. He had to die. He had to be slaughtered to be able to open those seals. once those seals are open, it's not good for Satan. It's not good for the legions of hell, and they know it. So they want to take as many of us down with them. You know, the old saying, if I'm going down, I'm going to take somebody with me. Well, they're going down and they know it. So they're trying to take us with them. So we as Christians have to encourage each other to stay strong in our faith, to spread the word and bring more non-believers so that they can't take us with them. Because they're going to try. In Mark 5, verse 1 through 20, yeah. And this talks about this man that lived in caves, and I can't pronounce that region. You'd have to ask a pastor or somebody who's been to seminary school or something. I'm not good at these with these Hebrew and Roman names and whatnot, but he was in the city, and he lived in these caves on the outskirts of the city because he was possessed with demons. So this is Jesus meeting him meeting this man for the first time. They came to the other side of the sea, into the country of those people. When he got out of the boat, immediately a man from the tombs, so he not only lived in the caves, he lived in the tombs, you know, the same places that they buried people, with an unclean spirit met him, and he had his dwelling among the tombs, and no one was able to bind him anymore, even with a chain. So the people of that area, they tried to bind him with chains, and he kept breaking out. This guy was strong. He was also possessed, though. Because he had often been bound with shackles and chains, and the chains had been torn apart by him, and the shackles broken in pieces. So you got these steel chains and shackles, and he's just breaking them, tearing them apart. Think about it. Think of if somebody put you in handcuffs, would you be able to just break out of them? I got this, I'll just break them. No, this man could. Broken in pieces, and no one was strong enough to subdue him. Constantly, night and day, he was screaming among the tombs and in the mountains, and gashing himself with stones. Seeing Jesus from a distance, he ran up and bowed down before him. This man had never met Jesus before. He just runs up and bows down to Jesus. And shouting with a loud voice, he said, "What business do we have with each other, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I implore you, by God, do not torment me." This man he's never met him, but he runs up to him and asks him, What are you doing? What are you doing here? Please don't torment me. For he had been saying to him, "Come out of the man, you unclean spirit." So this guy was possessed. So when this man ran up and asked, "What business do we have?" and "I implore you by God, do not torment me." This is a demonic spirit. This is something very bad. And they knew, and that spirit, that demon knew who Jesus was. He was like, "Oh crap, I'm in trouble." So he's running, "Please don't torment me," blah blah blah. And he was asking him, "What is your name?" So Jesus asked, "What is your name?" Now he wasn't actually asking that man his name. He was asking the demon, "What's your name?" And he said to him, "My name is Legion, for we are many." So this guy didn't just have one demonic spirit; he had many. It was an entire legion infecting him. he began to implore him earnestly not to send them out into the country. The demons like, don't send us out. We got us a nice home here, and this dude, yeah, he's demonic possessed, but hey, don't send us out into the country. Now there was a large herd of swine feeding on the mountain. The demons implored him, saying, "Send us into the swine, so that we may enter them." So the demons like, if you're gonna send us out of this guy, put us in pigs, and yeah, just send us to pigs. Jesus gave them permission. So Jesus said, "All right, get your butts out of here and go get in those pigs." And coming out of the unclean spirits entered the swine, and the herd rushed down the steep bank into the sea, about 2,000 of them, and they were drowned in the sea. So they infected these pigs, and all the pigs ran into the ocean and drowned. Their herdsmen ran away and reported it in the city and in the country, and the people came to see what it was that had happened. They came to Jesus and observed the man who had been demon-possessed, sitting down, clothed, and in his right mind. Sorry, I've had a cold, and now I'm getting over it. So it's causing me to cough a lot. Observed him sitting down and clothed, and in his right mind, the very man who had the legion, and they became frightened. Those who had seen it described to them how it had happened to the demon-possessed man, and all about the swine. And they began to implore Jesus to leave the region. As he was getting into the boat, the man who had been demon-possessed was imploring him that he might accompany him. It's like, look, you saved me. You saved me. You cleaned my spirit. I had all, they said almost 2,000 pigs. So you sent 2,000 demonic spirits out of me into these pigs, and you saved me. Let me come with you. And he did not let him. So Jesus didn't let him. But he said to him, "Go home to your people and report to them what great things the Lord has done for you, and how he had mercy on you." And he went away and began to proclaim in Decapolis, again, not good with these names, what great things Jesus had done for him. And everyone was amazed. So Jesus said, "No, I don't need you to come with me. I do need you to help spread my word, but I don't need you to come with me. I need you to go home and do just that. Go tell everybody what happened. Spread that word. Show them tell them and show them just how powerful I am. That even the demonic spirits are afraid of me. That even the demonic spirits listen, bow down, because they came and kneeled before Jesus. Even the demonic spirits bow before me. Go tell them. Spread that word." And the man did. And people were amazed by it. A few years ago, I was dealing with some pretty rough stuff. And I didn't know if I was going to make it through it. And a friend of mine had the phone number to text for a prayer line at the church that I now attend. And what I was going through was bad enough. I hadn't eaten in days. I couldn't. My stomach felt like it was knotted up. And I just never got hungry. I did force feed myself a couple times just to, because I knew I had to eat something. You go long enough without eating, you start to get weak and die. So I didn't want that. So I would force myself to eat at least like one sandwich a day or something. And I knew I was losing the battle. it was direct attacks from Satan and the other angels of hell and demons and whatnot. I could feel that I had lost the battle. I'd been trying to fight that battle by myself instead of asking God to help me with it. I had been fighting it for far too long by myself. But I kept saying, you know what, I can handle it. I got this. I'm strong enough, I can handle it. I can fight it. I can win this fight. I couldn't. We as humans, there's a false saying in churches of God won't ever bring you to it. God won't ever put more on your plate than you can handle. So we as Christians try to go through some bad times on our own because, well, God wouldn't bring this against me or have me be going through this if I couldn't handle it. That is a lie. That is never said in the Bible. Matter of fact, the Bible says just the opposite. God's going to bring you through a lot of stuff that you can't handle because He wants you to rely on Him. He wants you to need Him. And if you can do it, if you can get through it on your own, then what's His purpose? He's useless. You don't need Him. He can just sit back, kick back, and relax. He doesn't want that. He wants you to rely on Him. He wants you to need Him. So He brings you through it. He brings you through it. You don't handle it on your own. You can't. But I believed in that saying. God wouldn't give me more than I could handle. So I'm strong enough. I can handle this, and I kept fighting it. So I didn't ask God for help with it. I didn't ask others to pray for me to help. That God will help me through this, or give me the strength to get through this, or any of that. I tried to fight it myself, and I was losing the battle, and I could feel it. And I finally reached out to that friend of mine. I was like, look, send a text to the prayer line and tell them that I need help. I'm not going to give details, but I said, I've got a fight going on and I'm losing. I'm losing bad. At that point, when I finally had her text the prayer line, if you want to vision a warrior in armor, I was down on a knee. My head was hung low, my helm battered and beaten and on the ground, shield busted, sword shattered. Satan and the legions of hell were coming in for the killing blow. I had lost. It was over. And I knew it. So I texted her, and she texted the prayer line and just told them that I was going through something big because she didn't even know. And I know who actually answers that prayer line at the church, and knowing him, he prayed instantly and then sent the text out to the rest of the prayer line for them to pray as well. And as soon as I knew that text had gone through, as soon as she texted me back, she goes, okay, I sent him a text telling you were going through something big and that they needed to pray. Anyway, like I was saying, I know the man that answers that prayer line, I know he prayed as soon as he got the prayer request and then sent it out to everybody else. I know that he prayed because as soon as he prayed, the prayer was answered. The cavalry came to the rescue, and God and the angels of heaven thwarted off the finishing blow. And I'm here to tell about it now. Had that not happened, I probably wouldn't be here today. Not probably, I wouldn't be here today. And the reasons I believe God allowed that to happen is, one, because Satan's going to make attacks on us regardless. He's going to attack us. But also God used it, not needed it, but used it to teach me to ask for help. I am terrible at asking for help. I hate asking for help. I mean, even in that situation like that, I wouldn't go to God for help. It's like, I can handle it. I'm strong enough. I can fight this. I can win this fight. And God's sitting there going, no, you can't. Those are fallen angels of heaven. They're now angels of hell. They fell from grace. They're some of the most powerful beings in the universe. The only one more powerful than them is me. You're a human. You have no chance at beating them. Stop trying to fight them on your own. But I can handle it. I can fight this. No, I can't. And finally, I asked for help. I submitted. Because I knew I had lost. And I wasn't ready to end there. I wasn't ready for my life story to stop there. And so I asked for help, and it came. So when something bad's happening in people's lives, don't tell them they're being punished. You don't know if they're being punished. You don't know why God has is allowing something to happen, or why it's happening. God may not be allowing it to happen. It may be just a direct attack from Satan, and it's happening, and God's waiting for them to ask, hey, God, I'm fighting this fight against Satan, and I'm losing. I need some help. And when they finally do that, God will go, okay, I got your back. Here comes the Calvary. And in life, if you look back over your life, like when you were a kid growing up, if you did something wrong, your parents punished, you knew you were being punished, and you knew exactly what you were getting punished for. You're like, yeah, I was bad today. I know why I'm being punished. If you were taught if there was a hard lesson that you learned, or a lesson you learned the hard way, I should say, you knew it was a lesson. You knew, okay, I'm not being punished. This really sucks. Learning this lesson sucks. It wasn't a punishment, but it was just a hard lesson. You had to learn it the hard way, And if God's testing you, you'll know it. You know when you're being tested. Nobody, again, going back to childhood and stuff in school, when you took tests, you knew it was a test. Growing up, dating life, guys especially, when your girlfriend or wife or fiance or whoever is testing you, you know she's testing you. And yes, women, we will typically fail those tests. We're terrible at tests. But you know when you're being tested. There's a different feeling with each one. You know when it's a punishment. You know when it's a lesson. You know when it's a test. There's that different feeling. You're like, man, I'm not being punished. And that's what I believe Job was feeling. Job, as his friends were saying, you're being punished for doing something wrong. Job's sitting there, no, I'm not. I'm doing what I'm supposed to, so I can't. First of all, I'm doing what I'm supposed to, so I can't be being punished because there's nothing to punish me for. And secondly, this doesn't feel like a punishment. Something else is going on. And if it's an attack, just like in the physical world, you know when somebody's attacking you. You know when it's a direct attack. It doesn't feel like a punishment. Something happened not too long ago to me that I was like, why is this happening? God, this doesn't feel like a punishment. I don't see the lesson in this. There's nothing tempting me, so I'm not being tested. I'm like, what's going on? And I realized then, I was like, this is Satan. He's coming after me again. He's making direct attacks again. Okay. Oh God, you and I got this. Let him attack. Because I wear the armor of God now. I carry God's sword. I carry God's shield. Let Satan make the attack. He can't break through that armor. My personal armor, yeah, he can break through that. I'm human. I'm weak. I'm made of flesh and bone. I break, I bleed, I bruise, I die. But the armor of God, the hand of God, that you can't, there's not a weapon strong enough to break through that. You can't break that shield. You can't shatter that sword. Not even Satan can. And Satan knows he can't. So when you're going through a hard time, just remember that you'll know the difference. And if you don't, talk to a pastor. Talk to a fellow believer. Or if you're a non-believer, talk to a pastor or talk to a believer. And ask them what's going on. If you can't find anybody else or don't know anybody else to talk to, send me a message here. Talk to me. I'll help you try to figure it out. I'll pray for you. And maybe we can figure it out together. Maybe God will teach us both a lesson from what you're going through. Hope everybody has a wonderful day. And if you, again, as I've said before, if you have any questions on anything I post on here or anything that you've heard in church from other believers or in churches and you want to know if that's what, and you haven't gotten into your word, you haven't read your Bible to know whether or not it's the truth or not, because the Bible says there's going to be a lot of false prophets out there. We got to keep an eye out for. We as Christians have to keep an eye out for them. And if you're a non-believer or you've gotten away from your faith because you were maybe taught wrong or something, and you want to know if something that you've been taught was accurate, ask me. I'll let you know what I've read and what this thing says. If I don't know, because it's maybe in a book that I haven't read yet, I'll ask my pastor. I'll ask one of the other people at the church that I know might have the answer. But don't just give up on your faith because you were told you were being punished and you're like, for what? Don't get discouraged in your faith. If you're getting discouraged in your faith, talk to me. I'll help you figure out what's going on. I'll do the best I can anyway. Have a great day.